The movie starts on a strange planet called Barzum. The planet consists of three major kingdoms called Helium, the Zodanga, and the Tharks. Helium and Zodanga have been at war for centuries. At the beginning of the movie, we see the army of Helium in blue capes battling the army of Zodanga in red capes. The general of Zodanga, Sabthan, is approached by three men who claim to be messengers of God called Thurn. The Thurn's leader, Mati Shang, gives him a mysterious blue weapon and tells him that he has been chosen by the goddess to receive it. The Thurns have decided to help Zodanga in the war. They possess control over a mysterious blue light called the Ninth Ray, which makes them stronger than other living creatures on Barzum. We cut to New York City in 1880. A man named Edgar is summoned by his uncle named John Carter to New York City. When Edgar drops at the station, he is greeted by John's butler, who takes him to John's estate. As it turns out, John is a wealthy man and a former Confederate Army captain. John's lawyer sadly informs Edgar of John's sudden death. John has left all of his vast wealth to Edgar. The lawyer then takes a surprised Edgar to John's mausoleum, where his body is being preserved. But strangely, the door of the mausoleum only opens from the inside. Later, the lawyer hands Edgar a personal diary of John, which John wanted only Edgar to read. When the lawyer leaves, he begins to read it. After the Civil War, John Carter, a former captain in the Confederate Army, who currently looks for gold in caves. Paul is a Union colonel who wants John to help his cavalry soldiers against the Apache, so he abducts him and tries drafting him as a soldier. After several failed attempts of running away, he manages to escape by knocking a guard out and stealing the colonel's horse. The colonel and his men pursue him. Not far away, they come across a mounted Apache warband. The colonel and the men get into a shootout with the people. John tries running away amidst the chaos, but the colonel gets injured in the fight. He helps the colonel out of pity and brings him to a nearby cave. He goes inside, lights a match, and is beyond surprised to see lots of gold embedded in the roof of the cave. However, just then, a man behind him appears out of nowhere. The man is one of the ferns we saw at the beginning of the movie. The colonel alerts John, who gets into a fight with the strange man. He shoots the man, making him fall to the ground. The man says, "Barzum," while looking at a strange medallion in his hands. John picks up the medallion and repeats the word, Barzum. When John opens his eyes again, he is in a strange desert. He gets up and tries walking, but falls in every step. It seems as though he can float in midair. Confused, he practices walking in the new environment. He reaches a hill nearby where he sees several eggs hatching. Just then, a large group of green creatures with 6 limbs appear riding on massive animals. The leader attacks him, making John take a huge leap. When their leader asks them to, the creature in a different language introduces himself as Tas Tarkas. John introduces himself as John Carter from Virginia, but the creatures decipher that his name is Virginia. Tarkas asks John to jump as he did before, but John tries to escape and gets shot in the process. As they talk, we get to know that their kind is called Tharks. Elsewhere on the same planet, the princess of the city of Helium, Dija, practices presenting a weapon she has designed to her father, the king of Helium. Helium is at war with another city called Zodanga and is about to lose because of Thurns being on Zodanga's side. Dija has figured out the secret of the Ninth Ray used by the Zodanga to fight the war. However, when she shows her weapon to the king, a man secretly causes a malfunction, causing it to explode. The king of Zodanga, Sabthan, wants to marry Dija for the war to end, but she is extremely against it. Meanwhile, the Tharks take John to their city and put him with the newly born infants. At night, a female Thark named Sola feeds John a liquid, after which he can understand the language of the Tharks. The following day, the Tharks order John to jump high in front of everyone. John notices that the medallion is with Tarkus, and without it, he cannot go back home. Just then, 2 battleships appear in the sky. The Helium and the Zodanga are battling each other. The war is entertaining to the Tharks, who bet on who will win. We see Princess Dija fighting in the ships. She tries to control the ship but falls off of it in the process. John, using his newfound jumping powers, saves the princess. The Tharks start cheering for John, who is now fighting the Zodinga's soldiers along with Dija. John manages to change the course of the fight, making the Helium win, but their ship crashes as well. Dija and John are with the Tharks. At night, Dija and John talk, and Dija reveals to John that they are on Mars, which is called Barzum in their language. John is surprised and doesn't believe her. He tells her that he is from Earth. Dija finds it hard to believe too. Because of his thicker bone density and the planet's low gravity, Carter has incredible strength and can leap high. Dija then takes him to the Tharks temple, where no humans are allowed to go. She hopes that the temple has a way to know how people can travel through worlds, as John did. The kind female Thark, Sola, follows along behind them, begging them to stop. However, the three of them are soon arrested by the Tharks and sentenced to death for entering the temple. Tarkas asks everyone to leave him alone with the prisoners in the cell to cut John's hands off. When they are alone, he reveals that he is Sola's father and doesn't want them to die at the hands of the Tharks. He hands John his medallion and asks him to go to the Riverist to solve the mystery of the goddess Isis and get back to his world. When the Tharks look into the room after some time, they see that Tarkus has betrayed them. Tarkus' enemy, Tal Haju, takes charge and declares himself the new leader. Then, we see John, Dija, and Sola heading for the Riverist. Dija is leading the way. However, Sola tells John that she is leading them toward the city of Helium instead of the river. John confronts her about it, and it turns out that she is taking him to her city to use him as a soldier in the war. Disappointed, John asks Sola to lead the way and leaves the princess there. Dija insists that she only did it because she doesn't want to marry Sabathan. He asks her to accompany him to the river with no other way out. She agrees. John and Dija go on top of it and see a strange blue energy forming on the ground. Dija realizes that this is the power of the ninth ray that she had made her weapon. Just then, an army of Warhorns approaches, led by Mate Shang, the leader of the Therns. John bravely tells Daya and Sola to run away and fight the army of Warhorns himself. The king of Helium sends his army to John's aid, who defeats the Warhorns and saves them. They take an injured John to Helium. Daya reaches her home and meets her father. She is surprised to see the king of Zodinga, Sabathan. There, he has come with no weapon or soldiers to ask Dija to marry him and end the war. Dija doesn't have any other way to stop the war, so she reluctantly agrees to marry him. In the following scene, John wakes up. A soldier appointed by Dija fetches him and takes him to her chamber. Dija asks John to go back to his home using the medallion. When the guards enter her chamber, John disappears. Dija thinks that he went back to the earth, but John is hiding from the soldiers. When they leave, he tries to go outside but is caught by Matai Shang. John is surprised by Matai Shang's ability to change into anything around him. The whole city is preparing for the wedding of Sabathan and Dija. Matai Shang binds John to himself with the help of the ninth ray. John is made immobile as Mate Shang is controlling his wrist device. Mate Shang then reveals to him that Sabathan is planning to kill Dija and invade Helium after the marriage. The Thurn supported Sabathan as he was the easiest to manipulate, but Mate Shang planned to rule all of Barzum through Sabathan. Mate Shang is about to kill John when an alien dog John saved earlier comes to his rescue. It bites off Matai Shang's wrist device. Letting John free, he takes a flying craft and flies away to stop Dija from marrying Sabathan. However, John crash lands near the Tharks' They hold him captive with a beaten Tarkus. Tal Haju, who is now the leader of the Tharks, puts John and Tarkus with massive beasts called white apes. John manages to defeat the apes in front of the whole Thark population. He then invites Tal Haju to fight him and defeats him. The army of Tharks and John move to Daja and Sabathan's wedding. John gets there just in time to stop the wedding. Seeing him, Sabathan tries to kill Dija, but John stops him just in time. A war between the two cities erupts again. However, the Tharks are on the side of Helium, Zadenga loses, but Mate Shang escapes with John's medallion. John plans to live on Mars as Dija's husband, so he doesn't bother to look for the medallion. He and Dija get married, and the crowd cheers for them. He is now the Prince of Helium.
Dija leaves John outside and goes into the room when Mate Shang appears. He uses the medallion to send John to Earth. John wakes up and he is covered in dust and his beard has grown long. He is in the same cave and looks toward Colonel Powell to see his remains, suggesting that a long time has passed on Earth while they was on Mars. He looks around for a medallion but doesn't find it. The gold embedded in the cave makes him wealthy. He knows that there are more medallions on Earth. He starts a mining corporation and searches for the medallion for the next 10 years until one day he finally finds one on a site. John is delighted, but he knows that the Therns have been keeping an eye on him.
John knows any harm will cause him to die on both planets. That is why his mausoleum only opens from the inside. He had orchestrated his death to return to Mars. John writes in the diary that he wants Edgar to protect his mausoleum from the Therns and, in turn, take his wealth. Edgar is in shock after reading the diary. He goes out to the mausoleum and tries opening it with a secret password, which turns out to be Ned, the name John called Edgar when he was a kid. As the doors to the mausoleum open, a Thern approaches Edgar. He had been spying on Edgar, waiting to kill John. Edgar is surprised to see his uncle. John takes the Thern's medallion. John then asks Edgar to protect his mausoleum from now on.
He lies on the bed with the medallion and begins the chanting that will take him to Mars again.